Come on. Well, I played the wrong intro, but that's okay. Welcome, everyone. This is Martin Willis, and I'm with Kelly Hughes and Krys Devine. And thank you both for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. Now, as I mentioned in the chat here earlier, I'm not at the event. Now, I talked with James Fox on the phone the other day, and he basically said, I said, should I come up there? You know, I was up there at the 25th of January event that he had the press conference there. And I said, should I come up? And he said, well, let me see if I can get you in. It's basically for mainstream media. So I said, well, that's okay. I don't need to. I'm going on the 25th anyway, up there to Washington, D.C. to the Disclosure Foundation conference that they're having. But welcome you two. So basically what we're going to do today is we are going to put this up. This is in courtesy of News Nation, and I don't know why there's a stupid timer on, and I'm going to try to take that timer off. But anyway, we are okay. Here we go. Bring it back up. Put the timer back on again. Okay, hang on. Let's do that. All right. Anyway, no sense in having dead air here. So
yeah.
Thank you. Also. Go ahead.
Thank you guys for having, thank you, Martin, for having me. And I got to meet Kelly at Contact in the Desert. So I'm excited to be here. You and I met at the David Grusch hearing.
That's right.
Oh my goodness.
Yes,
and so, yes, I have to tell that story because Donna, who's in the other room, it's pretty funny. Okay. So, I was in line and I noticed these people showing up in line. Now I got there at 5:40 a.m. And so these people, I didn't remember them being in front of us. And so I said to them, hey, what time did you get here? Oh, we were here early. And I said, well, I don't remember you. And so how did you get in front of us? And so anyway, a news person came around. She put the microphone up to me and she said, what time did you get here to be here in line this morning? I said, 5:40 a.m. Then she went to the people in front of me. What time did you get here? 8 a.m. So I said, ha. So anyway, we get up toward the front and the guy's letting in the door. And I realized there was only a few seats left. And I said to the guy, these people here cut in front of us. Well, two people took off, but the rest of them didn't. They got in there. And poor Krys was standing alone.
No.
The last person that did not get in.
So, no,
the first person that didn't get in. Of the line of
oh my gosh, Krys.
But I was there, 5:40, because I went and met Randall Nickerson, the film producer of Aerial Phenomenon. But he stayed all night. He spent the night there on the step. And then he called me at 5 and he said, people are lining up. So I got up and headed over. And it was great. It was just, I met Martin and Donna and it was a fun experience. And you know what? Honestly, we went to the overflow room and it was great because we got to react, live. And I'm sure in your room, it was much more quiet and sober.
Oh, yes. So I went to both meetings. I was just trying to see, I had somewhere here, maybe it's gone now, but I had a little clip of me actually meeting David Grusch. Yeah, I took it down. But it's funny because everyone comments on it because I'm walking over toward him and I have my camera as I'm going to meet and he started to walk away. So I yelled his name and then he's looking around like that. And everyone said he's like looking for an assassin bullet or something. He looks scared. But anyway, it's a pretty funny clip if I can find it at some point. But yeah, that was such a historic event, wasn't it? That was in 2023, right? Was that?
2023. Exactly. It was a last minute thing for me. It's like, there's a hearing in DC and I'm like, this is historic. I have to be there. And I just picked up the phone. I called Randall because he's closer. I'm sorry, my dog is making noise. So I'm going to have to move her. But anyway, it was historic.
Yeah,
We love
it
dogs.
was. Yeah. And Randall's so funny. It's like we met up the day before. I think we had dinner, but I said, "What time are you going to be there in the morning?" He says, "Oh no, I'm staying in line." And so I got there, and I said, "Call me if people start showing up. I want to, make sure I get in." So he did. He called about 5 a.m. and I said, "All right, on our way." And the funniest thing happened though with Randall Nickerson. He tells me afterwards, he fell asleep. He was in the front row, but he kept falling asleep. And the guy beside him kept elbowing him and waking him up. It's so funny. But he made it. He was there.
So
So
Martin,
Yeah.
it looks, sorry to interrupt. Sam just showed me, it looks like he's got some link to a place that's actually streaming, and he was going to try and send
Okay.
that to you because it looks like for some reason News Nations isn't popping up.
Well, they're here. I have them here on the screen, and they may be waiting until it actually starts. What you may
Starts.
be,
Okay.
Sam may be seeing is something where they're getting ready to start or something. I don't know. But go ahead. If you need to drop out and talk to him, go ahead and do that if you have to do that.
Oh no, I was just, a lot of people in the chat were worried that we weren't going to get the actual capital steps. And so I was trying to make sure everybody knew.
Yeah, we are here. And thank you all for being here. And also, thank you very much, Shelley, for the nice little gift. And so anyway, it looks like we have over 700 people in here, and it's so
Wow.
funny. When I was searching for the original live stream, because I knew, I wasn't going to make it, I kept searching in like Chat GPT, and it said, "Go to podcast UFO Martin Willis." I say, "Well, that's nice, but that's me, and I'm looking for someone to stream from." Anyway, so yeah, this should be
It's
coming live any
interesting.
second
It
now.
looks like News Nation's getting a ton of bot hits on their chat right now. Like somebody is like really spamming.
Oh, really?
Hot
Oh,
flame
goodness.
dot edits, and it's like they're just posting numbers, random numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so I don't know if that's affecting.
Oh, affecting them starting. So as soon as this does start, just to let the the listener know, we are going to stay on the sidelines just so it doesn't break any copyright rules, and we are going to keep quiet when when it's going on. When there's breaks, we will comment, but we're not going to talk over the press conference. We're just going to let it run. I'll try to expand the screen a little bit, but we do have to stay on the sideline, just according to make sure I don't break any copyright. This is not a. This is also not a monetize. I would not monetize this. So if you're watching the replay, unless YouTube decides they're going to put their own ads on, this will be ad free as well. So anyway,
Martin, I have a question for you because what do you think is the most important thing that we would get out of today? Like, where are we at now?
That's
what
a
are we
great
looking
question.
for?
Yeah, I think that we're just going to have to sit and wait and see where it goes, and whatever is said today, I'm not really expecting anything, unless I'm wrong. I'm not expecting anything earth-shattering or anything, as far as the evidence, right out here in front. But when I talked to James Fox a couple of days ago, he said that the main thing for him doing this is he wanted to get mainstream media involved, and that's what his whole publicist outfit was doing, is they were focusing on mainstream media to get them involved in this topic, which I think is a great thing, because the more that happens, the more awareness there is of this. And surprisingly or not surprisingly, we have Day of Disclosure coming out in a couple of days. Now, I had an invite to go to New York City on the yesterday, when it was aired yesterday, and Union Square, and I couldn't make it. It's just I'm going back up to DC on the 25th. I just got back from Contact in the Desert. It's just too much, so I decided, sitting this one out. But so I'm excited to watch that movie. Are you two also?
Oh gosh, yes, of course.
And we're hearing
Very
all
excited.
these things of, I'm getting all these people sending me clips from Spielberg, basically saying, well, there's more truth to this than not. And, and all that. And so I had a friend that's not into UFOs. He said, "Hey, what about this movie coming out by Spielberg? That sounds exciting." And then I sent him a clip of Spielberg saying, "I wish I had a sighting," and all that,
Yeah.
and basically talking like there's a lot to this. So anyway, he was unaware that Spielberg had really that kind of interest in this, even though he's had other things, related to this topic, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, etc.
So many. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Krys,
I mean, go ahead.
I was just going to say I know you asked Martin, but just to like chime in
Yes.
unsolicited,
Oh, please.
I think that Grusch has just been a North Star for so many people, and even the hope that he might share a little bit more today. I'm with Martin. I'm not expecting some giant earth-changing announcement, but the presence of mainstream press and then also any further information from Grusch, I think people really appreciate that because he's been kind of a rock. He was the gateway for a lot of people into this topic. And so I think anything more that he says will be really fantastic.
Yeah, and I think Martin makes a good point. I mean, to me, it's a little less than what I would want, but I certainly agree. Maybe what we could say what success would look like is if mainstream media actually shows up to the press event and covers it. I mean, we know News Nation's going to do that because they've had our back for the last several years. But when we were at the hearings, I was filming. A CNN camera was filming the line and because it was the biggest congressional hearing as far as attendees, I think, in history. We made lines around the building and had overflow rooms.
Yes.
But the CNN producer, I said to him, I made a kind of a snide remark, but I said, why aren't you guys covering this topic? And I have a picture of the guy, but he looked at me and he was like, "We're trying." And that's all he said. And it was very telling. Here we go, Greg.
There's James.
Congress has held multiple
Hang on, I'm not hearing
hearings
anything.
on UAP, which is a dramatic shift towards transparency. Thanks to many members of Congress, the issue is now being taken very seriously. We, the people, are finally hearing accounts in a credible setting from firsthand U.S. military personnel about highly advanced unknown craft that fly rings around our frontline fighter jets. With President Trump's unprecedented directive to release UAP files, we are seeing more and more of these type of craft captured on various government sensors, and I'm told this is just the beginning. One of the aspects to the phenomenon that's spoken about with less frequency are close encounters of the third kind. Reporting by witnesses of entities of non-human sentient beings connected to the craft. Don't take it from me. Some of these reports come directly out of United States Air Force's own files. In fact, the very scientists who coined the phrase close encounters of the third kind investigated cases for the United States Air Force from 1947 to 1969, Dr. J. Allen Hynek. According to Hynek, it was cases like those that the United States Air Force desperately tried to keep secret, because it's one thing to try and confuse the public with weather balloons and swamp gas, and another entirely different when dealing with credible reports of non-human beings on the ground. I personally investigated one such case for over 16 years. The case occurred in Varginha, Brazil in 1996 and involves dozens of first-hand reports of UAP and direct contact with living, intelligent, non-human beings who, according to multiple Brazilian witnesses, were flown out of Brazil to the United States in January of 1996. Recently, the former Brazilian Ministry of Defense, Aldo Rebelo, confirmed the incident occurred and stated, if the U.S. disclosed information on this case, then we in Brazil could do the same. Mr. President, I'm respectfully requesting that you declassify and release all files related to this case and others like it. We, the people, have a right to know. Reality should not be classified. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. And I just want to say, especially for the members standing behind us, as you know, this Congress, we were given permission to stand up the task force on declassification of federal secrets. Many of our colleagues did not believe in this up until really the videos started coming out. And had it not been for the efforts of Representative Burlison, Burchett, Moskowitz, and the countless of other members who have backed us in this fight, you probably wouldn't see some of these files and videos that are coming out today. But it doesn't just stop here. For some time, we've been pushing for there to be legislation, whether it be whistleblower protections or the UAP Disclosure Act, and it's been time and time again stonewalled by various intelligence agencies and staff within the House of Representatives, which is why we are grateful to the administration and their effort, as well as Stephen Miller's office, in pursuing the truth, something that we all should deserve transparency on. And so our next call to action will be that we are meeting with the White House. We are requesting that whistleblowers receive temporary immunity or permanent immunity, and if they are able to divulge whether it is locations of craft and or advanced technologies. As you know, this is something that we are all wanting to know the truth on. And again, without your cooperation, we wouldn't have been where we are at today. And so thank you. I'd like to now introduce Representative Eric Burlison.
Thank you all for being here today. I want to first begin by thanking everyone that's here, and I want to thank my colleagues behind me, this task force. We could not do this without the incredible leadership of Representative Luna and my colleagues on the team. We also wouldn't be here today if it weren't for the brave men and women who have come forward as whistleblowers, who have plowed that soil. We wouldn't be here without these individuals. And we also wouldn't be here celebrating the victories that we have were it not for President Trump. We finally have a leader that the American people can trust to challenge institutions that have grown far too comfortable operating without accountability. For decades, the American people have been treated like children, told that our government secrets that they don't get to know. Don't ask, don't expect answers, just trust the process. Well, the American people are done with that answer, and I'm done with that answer. Over the last 3 years, we have made more progress on this issue than at any point in modern history. We've held hearings. We've reviewed Russian and Brazilian records, including a formal FBI inquiry into the '96 Varginha incident, where witnesses alleged the Brazilian military captured non-human entities and craft and buried the truth. Today, Aldo Rebelo, who was the Ministry of Defense at the time, came forward and admitted that this event was true. We've sent targeted inquiries into MIT Lincoln Laboratories, MITRE, and every government agency that's been connected to UAP. We've worked with lawmakers across 4 continents. We've sought answers on cases like Matthew Sullivan, a would-be whistleblower whose tragic death deserves far more scrutiny than it has received. We've obtained video evidence, including the MQ-9 footage of a UAP incident off the coast of Yemen, delivered to my office through what can only be described as a Tom Clancy-style dead drop. Someone felt that they had, now think about this, someone felt they had to secretly hand information to an elected official, a member of Congress. Why would anyone fear bringing information to Congress? They shouldn't. We are no longer asking hypothetical questions anymore. Congress is requesting specific records and videos. These agencies and contractors know that we know that they exist, and we're going to get them released. We continue to receive credible claims of recovered craft and reverse engineering programs that may have operated for decades outside of any oversight. Those claims point to specific facilities, contractors, records, and people. Congress has a constitutional duty to follow them. And that duty does not vanish because someone stamped a document classified 30 years ago. It does not vanish because some bureaucrat says so. It does not vanish because a program has become so compartmentalized that even elected officials are expected to look the other way. The Constitution gave Congress oversight, authority for a reason. No elected bureaucrat has that authority. This information is not yours to keep. It belongs to the American people. They own it and they deserve the truth. The most important people in this story are the whistleblowers. David Grusch, Admiral Gallaudet, Dylan Borland, Jeff Nusatelli, and the many others who haven't been named yet. Their careers were upended. Their families were torn apart. They endured an avalanche of stress, all because they believed this information belongs to you, the American people, and they attempted to and tried to get it to you. Some will say that they should have used more proper channels. To hell with the safe way. The safe way protects the system. These are people who simply wanted the American people to see what they know, and they deserve protection. They deserve our respect, and they deserve a second chance. And we are at a different time. This is the age of disclosure. Mr. President, I'm asking you directly, waive the non-disclosure agreements that still bind these patriots. Grant immunity to anyone and everyone who has already come forward and everyone who will come forward. Open the door and let them speak. Because unless people know they will be protected, why would they come forward and step forward otherwise? It is time that we flip the script entirely as well. It has been said by people in positions that know that even presidents have been kept on a need-to-know basis, that Navy pilots, admirals, and generals describe programs to senior officials that commander-in-chiefs were never briefed on, career bureaucrats who view presidents as temporary help, here today, gone tomorrow. That is not classification. That's a constitutional crisis. Transparency must be the default in the United States of America, and it should be required for those with knowledge to come forward, not wait for us to ask. There must be real penalties for officials who knowingly withhold information from Congress. Playing dumb is no longer acceptable. Hiding behind classification is no longer acceptable. Mr. President, you know that the agencies lie. You know that firsthand. They have lied to you. They have lied about you. They do not cooperate easily, and they never have. This is the moment. Use the authority that you have, Mr. President. The American people are behind you. And to everyone listening today in government, working for a contractor, retired, anywhere in the world, come to Congress. Come to these group of people. We will work with you. This is a worldwide call for action. And what you know, and help us please release every record, every file, and every piece of information. The time is now. Thank you. And with that, I'll yield to the general, Mr. Perry.
What's that? Just be brief. Be brief, be brilliant, be gone. Well, it's good to be with you all, and it's great to be with my colleagues and people that want transparency in America. And just like my good friend, Mr. Burlison, Representative Burlison said, this isn't the government's information. Unless there's some kind of national security element that's going to imperil our safety, this is our information. We should have it, every single bit of it, and you shouldn't be crazy, and you shouldn't have your reputation destroyed because you want to disclose. This is our government. This is our country. This is our information, and damn it, we demand it. God bless you.
Thank y'all. My name's Congressman Tim Burchett, and I know y'all got up this morning and said, "Dadgum, I hope I get to stand out in the heat and listen to some redneck talk and for too long." Well, I'll keep it short. I am a redneck, proudly, but it's a pleasure being here with you. I want to first salute the bravery of these folks standing back here on the back row for their guts. This country was not created by a bunch of meek pansies. It was people that took a stand, and these fellows took a stand, and thank y'all so much. I really appreciate that. I appreciate my colleagues in Congress. I even have to say it, I have to appreciate my friends in the media today. So there you go. I've crossed over the divide. But, you know, I talked to the president about this issue, and he kept his word to me. He kept his word, and I think that's important. But I think we also need to remember, too, when I'm sitting in a skiff and some little punk in a man bun tells me the president's on a need-to-know basis, folks, that ought to tell you right there what we're up against. We're up against corruption. We're up against a cover-up. This thing's been covered up at least since 1947. Dadgummit, the public deserves the right to know. It's your dadgum tax dollars. It's not about little green men or flying saucers. It's about what are we spending all these millions and possibly billions of dollars on that these idiots tell us don't exist. And then yet we turn right around in the skip and then they tell us they do exist. This is a cover-up. You all know it. We know it. We demand the answers, and dadgummit, we're going to get them. Look, we got one or two bites at this apple. Please be careful about the false information that's coming out of Washington on all this stuff. Trust your gut. You know what's right. You know they exist. You know this has been a cover up since before most of y'all been born. Thank y'all so much. Let's keep fighting for the truth. And thank you, Donald Trump, for keeping your word to me. And you all deserve to be in that skiff with us. We shouldn't be the gatekeepers, and none else of these jugheads up here should either. All right, let's get at it. Thank y'all. And I don't care if he's across the aisle or not. He's one of the smartest guys I know in Congress, and he's one of my best friends. His name is Jared Moskowitz. Jared, come up here, brother.
All right, that'll be used in my primary. Wonderful.
Oh, excuse me.
I
hate his guts.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I don't have a plastic Jesus.
Appreciate the correction for the record. Anyways, it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be here with my colleagues. And let me thank the men and women behind them, not just for their courage, but for their service to the country. And that's what's changed. I mean, look, this conversation started years ago with people like the late Harry Reid, and then Marco Rubio and Chuck Schumer, and now my colleagues and many others in the House. But one of the things that changed is the quality and the caliber of people who are coming forward, who have served our military, decorated people with the experience, airline pilots, and the technology in our hands, and the technology that our military has. That's what's changed. And what's also changed is we started asking questions, very simple questions. And this is what got me interested in the topic. We would ask questions, and they would then push back. And we would ask more questions, and the pushback became more significant. We would try to put language in an amendment, in a bill, and they would oppose it. They would secretly go to the chairman of committees to strip that language out. And that became clear to us that they were hiding something. And so, listen, I don't know what the full truth is, but I know we're being lied to. And the American people know that also. And so, look, the time for disclosure is now. Disclosure today, disclosure tomorrow. The American people have a right to know. We know about these advanced technology programs. We know they come out of Area 51. They did when we went to kill Osama bin Laden with an advanced technology helicopter that Congress never funded. There's trillions of dollars missing at the Pentagon. Where does that money go? And so it's time for the government to come forward. And what we need is we need your help. All of you here. I get asked this question by people in my community more than anything else. What does the government know, and why aren't they telling us? The American people can handle it. They can handle it. I trust them. And it's time that we tell them the truth. Thank you.
What?
Introduce yourself.
Yeah. My name is Leslie Kean. I'm one of the reporters who wrote the 2017 New York Times story that fundamentally changed the conversation about UAP. In the years that followed, members of Congress met with Navy pilots and received classified briefings. Some came to realize that the observed objects were highly unlikely to be American, Russian, or Chinese technology, but nobody would publicly confirm what they were. Then in 2023, the conversation changed again. Former intelligence official and whistleblower David Grusch met with members of Congress, providing them with detailed information about covert government programs that he said possessed craft of non-human origin. This had been hidden from congressional oversight for decades. I was privileged to have interviewed Mr. Grusch extensively before publishing his story with my colleague Ralph Blumenthal 3 years ago. 6 weeks after the story broke, Mr. Grusch testified under penalty of perjury in an open congressional hearing. While under oath, he spoke about an ultra-secret crash retrieval program and stated that some craft contained specimens or pilots, which he called non-human biologics. The potential existence of another living, intelligent, advanced species has more implications for humanity than the recovery of technological hardware. Now, the conversation needs to shift again, with more of a focus on biology and less on technology. Having served for decades on the staff of congressional intelligence and defense committees, Kirk McConnell, who is standing here today in the back, he was present in classified settings when highly credible sources briefed senators, including Marco Rubio, about recovered non-human bodies. Unlike legitimate national security concerns that require us to keep advanced technologies of non-human origin secret, that justification should not apply to biological evidence. Knowledge of the existence of another life form, studied and documented by qualified experts, should not be considered a threat to national security. By what authority can any institution withhold confirmation of what may be the most consequential scientific discovery in human history? Knowledge that we are not alone does not belong to any government or military. It belongs to all of humanity. Today, I call upon the President to prioritize the declassification and public release of any evidence concerning recovered advanced non-human biological entities. Thank you, and I turn this over now to David Grusch.
I'm tall. I'll try to enunciate. Good afternoon. I'm here today because my leadership on the disclosure issue is part of my continued service to the nation. I took an oath as an Air Force officer swearing allegiance to the principles and the framework of the U.S. Constitution. I took that oath seriously then, and I take that oath seriously now. And if this is one of my final duties of public service, I want it to be this: helping Congress and the President restore lawful accountability over activities and spending that should never been placed beyond constitutional oversights, and to be transparent with the American people. There are a myriad of issues across multiple cultural, religious, and institutional spectrums. The topics here that we're discussing today go beyond life in the universe. There are serious homeland security and airspace safety issues. There are relevant counterintelligence and technology protection issues that must be taken into consideration. For decades, unknown objects have freely operated in restricted airspace in large metropolitan areas and critical infrastructure, and the agencies responsible for securing the homeland cannot adequately defend against it. This is a serious national security issue. In my official duties, I was exposed to human and signals intelligence information concerning foreign adversary, UAP crash retrieval, exploitation and study efforts, adversary views on U.S. legacy program reverse engineering efforts, and U.S. held audiovisual information related to crash retrieval matters, such as the recovered vehicles and the associated biological material. One must always be concerned about adversarial disinformation when you're getting foreign intelligence, but I was able to cross-verify this information internally to back up the foreign government assertions. Many of the president's team has been kept in the dark by high ego, politically appointed actors, both because of incompetence and malicious intent has subverted the president's order on this issue. Furthermore, some of this foreign intelligence has not been provided to Congress despite lawful requests to the Defense Intelligence Agency last summer, and also having formally been published across the IC and analyzed by such analytical centers such as NASIC. These records belong under congressional oversight, and I believe DIA should stop obstructing Chairwoman Luna's task force and provide those documents to Congress and enter it through mandatory declassification review so the American public can see some of the foreign intelligence I had access to. Secrecy around this issue did not appear overnight. Subsequent executive orders, Secretary of Defense memorandums, departmented security, basically nullified Congress's role with the judicial branch with oversight of this issue. Remember, classification exists to protect the nation. Executive Order 13526 discusses what can and cannot be classified. Embarrassment, hiding funds, criminal activity, and the basic information about scientific information in the universe is unlawful for it to be classified. And this is why whistleblower protections matter. Through my federal litigation ongoing with the Department of War, I learned that the Air Force worked with an external agency to seek an investigation of me for alleged unauthorized disclosures punishable under the Espionage Act after I testified in front of Congress in 2023. discussing the results of my congressionally directed investigation in the support of the first Trump administration. This should concern every member of Congress, regardless of party. To this day, I'm still fighting years of record withholding, administrative obstruction, and a prolonged effort to get a medical military retirement that I still am not in retired status. This is also a real fraud, waste, and abuse issue. President Vance's task force is sharply focused on the issue of misuse of funds. The same accountability problem applies here. And during my investigation, I found slush funds to the tune of billions of dollars per annum for these activities. We cannot have one standard for the American people and another standard for the deep state that hide behind the veil of secrecy. President Trump has the authority to create an enduring legacy of government transparency, accountability consistent with national security protections. Disclosure should not depend on leaks. It should not depend on the public taking my word for it or anyone else's. American people deserve more than vague denials and selective releases of prior administrations, to include through troubled organizations such as ARROW. I applaud the president's efforts and his promise to show true American leadership on this issue of massive worldwide interest, over 1 billion views on the File Drop website. So the time has come to stop asking the public to trust secret conclusions. Instead, provide an honest accounting of what it knows, what it's done, and what has been withheld. God bless America.
I think we have about 4 minutes before they call votes to open it up for a quick round of questions. So if you guys can just, let's start with Real America's Voice.
Mm-hmm. I certainly don't have the compendium. It's a continuum from corporeal bipedal type life to, what I would consider like sentient plasmoid life, but there are several that the U.S. government is aware of. Okay. Yeah, I can't comment on the content of that program. I've discussed on my interview in Judicial Watch, that was a National Security Council program. And the secrecy started in 1954 through an Eisenhower executive order that created that infrastructure. Yeah. Oh. Yep. Mm-hmm. I think the sovereign contract between the citizenry and its government, I think the institutional rots that the lack of transparency in this issue is possibly going to cause an unattainable socioeconomic condition if the government is not transparent, akin to certain other, I don't want to say the Epstein files, that's a dirty word, but we could have that kind of scandal if we're not transparent on this issue. Mm-hmm. I would go watch James Fox's documentaries. I like the Disclosure is a great movie. That's a good primer. So, and there is a declassified 1971 Australian formally classified secret assessment that a couple years ago was put in the Australian National Archives. I encourage people to read page 7 through 16. And that was the nuclear branch chief of the Australian government discussing the U.S. cover-up and the involvement of the CIA back in the 70s. And that's actually a little known document that is publicly available.
Is there anything that ties into what is happening here today
Mm-hmm.
with his testimony that never happened because he was denied 2 weeks, I guess, before?
That's an ongoing.
It's an ongoing federal investigation. Yeah.
They're leading up, but a lot of the stuff that started happening and picking up speed is just weird that it somewhat correlates to the disclosure efforts.
What was he coming in to testify for?
That would be a question for Rep. Burlison. Yeah, David.
Well, yeah, Mr. Sullivan was on the Legacy program. I served on active duty with him in the Air Force, but I don't want to discuss details of his knowledge until the federal investigation is complete. Okay. Yeah, Joe.
So, for those that are maybe not so familiar, can you explain right now what the roadblocks are. What is preventing lawmakers and lawmakers
Mhm.
from visiting locations that have been critical to the work and hearing?
David Burchett and
That
Wilson.
the knowledge is there, but the ability to go and see them.
I'll take a
Oh,
stop
yep.
at that. If Congress says we're going to go to Area 51, if Congress says we're going to go to Area 51, everybody says, go to Area 51, Burchett. All I'm going to get there is a good dadgum T-shirt, all right? The moving ban's already going to be there. The problem you have is that these things have been moved into private entities, so they don't have a FOIA. I could FOIA Ford Motor Company, but doesn't mean they're going to do anything. That's why they moved it out of the federal governments, and that's part of the roadblocks. Other roadblocks we've seen, we tried to get a committee. We've had staff members try to block us when we first started this thing with that first hearing that Grusch said that there's biological entities. They tried to move it into remember that Russian balloon that flew over? They tried to move it into that. And what was it? Chinese, excuse me, they're all together. I don't care. No, I know they're not, but they tried to move it into that. We had staff members try to block us. Just the top level. We've been in a skiff before, and we had a member of Congress come in and just try to disrupt the meeting, try to disrupt Grusch, throw him all these trick questions, and he answered every dadgum one of them just right off the bat. He knocked it out of the park. So
If there's before we have to go, because this is the last question, we do have a meeting set up with the White House. The White House is going to play ball on this. So as Rep Burlison and Burchett has stated, they are following through on everything that we are sending them. So the next course of action and something that they are willing to entertain is if you are an intelligence official or have knowledge of locations of materials, and in doing our due diligence and following up the task force, they are considering, and I do believe that they are going to be providing immunity permanently, so that people can't be hit with a violation of the Espionage Act. So again, there's a lot of people that have a lot of information, but it's really, can we prove it, and what information can we then bring forward to the American people? So we are still relying on you guys.
wait a minute, let the guy he's had his hand up the whole time, ma'am. Go ahead. Right. There goes the bell.
Quite a few, several dozen. So that's an ongoing list. So can't give you an exact number because I didn't even have full access to that information. Several dozen. Yes. Yeah.
Bottom line, we got to go vote. Bottom line, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for the bravery of these individuals who came forward, Mr. Grusch, and all of the whistleblowers. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for the political courage of my colleagues who took this issue from being a fringe issue to being something that everyone is talking about and is no longer a fringe issue. And we wouldn't be here if it weren't for this president who has taken a decades-long request and finally brought us into the age of disclosure. And so, and I want to say thank you to the press as well, to James and to Leslie, and to everyone who has helped cover this topic. We're here to fight for the American people, fight for the truth. And again, our last call to action is we want to challenge every foreign country. Do what the United States is doing. See what we're doing here. And we want to see your country follow suit. And we want to see if any individuals have any information, do not be afraid to come to a member of Congress. We will protect you, and we will make sure that the truth is out there. Thank you.
It's shady. Y'all are the media. You'll figure it out. Of course, there's something going on. You had 14 rabbis, 14 preachers, 14 used car salesmen disappear. You'd be asking questions. There's something going on. What? Nothing to do with UFOs. I think he's just ill.
What's the biggest wow that you've seen?
Well, since you bear a striking resemblance to Steven Spielberg, I'm going to answer this. But Matthew McConaughey is going to play Tim Burchett in the Tim Burchett story. Okay, I just want you to know that. I can't talk about it. That's the problem. I got to go. Thank y'all. Hey, tell your people to call their dadgum congressman. All right, we want disclosure. That's all you got to say. Disclosure.
Thank you. Leslie,
When you grab that.
Well, that looks like that is it. So I guess I can you all hear me? All right. I'm going to take down the feed, I guess. Hey, Matt, you got to unmute your mic. We got some feedback here.
I'm going to take down the feed, I guess. Hey, Matt, you got to unmute your mic. We got some feedback. I'm going to take down the feed, I guess. Hey, Matt, you got to unmute your mic.
We got some feedback coming through.
Is it me?
Is someone playing something on their?
I don't think so, but
Close everything I have. If everyone can look at their computer and close everything they have on their computer right now.
I don't think so, but
If everyone can look.
All right, I think it's worked. Nope.
is it?
Someone has something open on their computer, I think. No, maybe not. Matt Ford, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Matt.
Matt, can you hear us? Matt.
Uh-oh.
Okay, Matt.
You there, Matt?
You're setting, Matt. You can't hear us, obviously. So Matt Ford is joining us. He cannot hear us for some reason. Can everyone else hear me okay? All right. He's looking to see what's going on. But all right. So here we are. Without further ado, I'm glad that Matt is joining us. Hopefully he will be able to hear us. He just got to a hotel room, saw we were streaming, and so I asked him if he would join. So thank you all for being here. We still have, I don't know, 1,200 people watching right now. So thank you all for being here. And let's talk about it. Let's do, Matt, first of all, can we hear you yet? Can you hear us? Matt, can you hear us?
Oh, poor Matt.
Okay. He's working on his settings. All right. So Kelly, we'll start. I'm not picking on you, believe me, but what did you think overall?
It was kind of, I think, what you had said, that there probably wasn't going to be a lot, but there were a few little nuggets in there that I thought were really interesting. As predicted, I think a lot of it came from Grusch. Unfortunately, I think there was a lot of packaging of political rhetoric that I don't think really advances things much, other than perhaps trying to get certain people's attention. But one of the things he said, unfortunately, we couldn't hear the questions, so we had to kind of like put together by context clues what the questions were. And I think somebody must have asked something about what kind of biologics, and Grusch said a compendium, everything from bipedal corporeal life to sentient plasma. And the plasma piece, I think, is really fascinating. I've seen a couple of really interesting papers in the last couple of years about plasma. I don't pretend to understand it at any deep level, but it seems to be a recurring point, and especially some people are hypothesizing that that has a lot to do with the orbs that people see, that there's a link between those. And I think that's really interesting. And then he also mentioned a document, which, Martin, I sent you a link to it.
Yes.
This Australian document from 1971, which I, of course, was trying to skim through while we were doing this, but discussion of kind of their report on how the US has handled UFOs, which is going to be really fascinating. And he said it was pages 7 through 16 on that document.
Okay. I can't tell what, okay, I'm at page 2. So let me go into 17 right now. That's
7.
up on this 7,
yes,
right?
7. Yep.
Yes.
Page 7 is the first page that he said to pay attention to.
That's right. I have that too, 7 through 16. So anyway, I will put this for those of you who are watching. Let me just put that right into the link so you can see it live. And also, if I do put this out as a podcast, I'll put that in the show notes. So we're expecting that we should be hearing back from Matt Ford. He's going to try to sign in again and So that'd be good to have him. Anyway, so I just put that up, and now I'm going to go through it a little more.
Yeah, I think there's going to be, it's essentially their intelligence report on how our intelligence has handled the topic, I guess between the 40s and 71 when this was written. So that'll be really interesting. I know it looks like it mentions the Condon report, the Robertson panel. So lots of touchstone UFO historical pieces here. It'll be interesting to see an international intelligence perspective on those.
Right. And just for those who are not aware of, the Condon report was, I think, at Colorado University. And basically, Condon himself had a bad attitude about UFOs, did not believe in him, looked in every which way he could to basically debunk, but they did get to several cases that they could not debunk. So it's still an interesting report. This is talking about Project Grudge and probably Sign later on, 1948 and all that. So, and also the Robertson panel was 1953. And for those of you who have been following this topic, we know that in 1952, there was a major UFO flap. It was like almost out of control. Everyone was seeing UFOs all over the country, and it was driving the Air Force crazy. So they came up with the Robertson panel. And basically, that's where all the stigma comes from, or a lot of it comes from. What they decided to do was to, ridicule. That was their method to try to slow these sightings down. So if they ridicule, then, less people would feel free to report them. And so that's kind of, that's been, I think, kind of in place in a way, more or less, over the years, all the way through Project Blue Book. And when that ended, and by the way, I have said this on the show a number of times that I know someone here where I am in South Carolina in the winters, and he worked at Wright-Patterson and as a civilian, and he used to have water cooler talk with people from Project Blue Book. They closed in 1970, the first part of 1970. And he said some of those people were still there in the early 70s when it was supposed to have closed. So I know there's no, and I tried to get him to talk about it on this show. And he said that he wasn't really. So this is page 16. So anyway, like I said, I'll have that in the show notes. And also anyone that wants to comment, if you want a question or say something in the comment, please put them in all caps. We still have over 1,200 people here. Oh, Matt, let's try Matt and see. Matt, can you hear us now?
I can. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's great. Glad you made it here. So yeah, thanks for joining us, Matt. It was fun. I got the text from you and said, hey, why not join us? So here you are. And
cool,
Matt has the Good Trouble Show. I think you got something like 130,000 subscribers on YouTube. You're doing a really great job over there. And
thank you. Back at you.
Yeah. And we met last year, about a year ago, and was and been in touch ever since. Matt and I both have the distinction of having our UFO sightings in a hot tub.
Yep.
Think about that all the time. I'm
Maybe I need to buy a hot tub
every day. That's it. Yeah.
It is odd.
It is. Yeah. You think of a lot of people that have UFO sightings, they have because you're either smoking a cigarette or walking the dog, or both. Those are the people that have the most. But I want to address something here, and that is with you, Krys. I don't like putting people on the spot, so I'm going to try to do it gently. Is when we were talking at Contact in the Desert the other day, Eric, I believe your partner, showed me a orb video, and I was blown away. It's not just an average orb video. It is really, really something. And he says, oh yeah, we have hundreds of these. They're in the backyard. What is going on with you? Are you summoning these? You got to unmute.
No.
You have to unmute. We cannot hear you. Yeah. Uh-oh.
There we go.
I don't know. Do you have one of those microphones that you have to whack it for it to work?
Well, apparently I didn't know that. So it's new. Maybe I did. The story is way too long to go into here, but yeah, I started going down the rabbit hole in May of 2021, listening to Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp. I call them my gateway drug to ufology. Shortly after that, just literally within days, weeks, I started having, I did do a meditation, not because of them. I heard other things like if you meditate and with gratitude, and essentially the experiences started even before I recognized him. And in reality, when you unearth my story, they were childhood encounters as well with UAP with my parents and things. But those, you kind of unearth those as time goes along. In San Diego in 2021 was my first nighttime sighting. We captured several at night. But then in February, I think 9th of 2022, I started getting daytime orbs over the house. And every day, pretty much every single day around the same time, I would go out. It was like spotting a deer. That's what I call it. People are, how did you see this little white dot in the sky? I said, I don't know. I was raised a hunter and we used to look for little white dots in the, in the trees. And that's how you hunt. And they just reappeared. And I've recorded hundreds of them. We moved in 2023. The phenomenon has followed me ever since. I think actually the orb Eric showed you, we talked after you and I talked, and I think it was one he captured the other night because he captures them as well. So his was pretty phenomenal. But I've got some pretty crazy things, Martin. And this is why I'm passionate about the topic and why I'm passionate about disclosure. Because as an experiencer, I had no idea. I'm like, it was nuts and bolts in the beginning to me. I was in the Navy. Eric was on the Princeton before, when it actually got commissioned. So not during the sightings, but that's what kind of drew me in. I was, we're both active duty in the 90s. So that's what drew me into the topic, nuts and bolts wise. And then my sightings just, everything unpacked in a way that just totally shifted reality for me. And so, yeah, that's
Very
kind of my story. We'll tell it more one day in a longer format and have great videos, everything from jellyfish to cubes to everything.
Wow.
I just can't. I mean, it's just incredible. They're not like obvious. They're more orbs.
Maybe you should move next door to Chris Bledsoe in North Carolina.
Yeah, him and I talk. And
that'll be a way to get full disclosure right there. They call it, catastrophic disclosure.
I don't understand. And even now when I see things at night, I pretty much, it's kind of sad in a way because I almost dismiss anything that's going across the sky that stays pretty consistent. I see those 5, 6, 7, 8 times, 10 times a night. Probably anyone can see them. The ones I pay attention to now are like the flash bulbs or the blinks.
That move around. This thing was,
Yeah. Or
seen those.
Or the triangular formation. That was the first one I had a couple of weeks ago. But to move on, so this is important to all of us as experiencers, and we have a right to know reality. And Jeff is the one that came with that. My dear friend Jeff, who I met at Seoul before he came out more publicly, he had already testified at Arrow, and it is reality has been classified, and we're done with that. We deserve to know as citizens of humanity. We have sovereignty over our environment and our world, and we're American citizens, and we pay tax dollars, and we have a right to know where our money's going, and it needs to become clear where our funding is going. And he brought that up today. It's about more than UFOs. It's about corruption and knowledge being suppressed.
Exactly. And I like what Leslie Kean said when she said, it's basically, it should not be national security if we have discovered that there's other intelligence or other life out there. It should be for all humanity. I really liked that phrase that she had. Yes. And they basically all were saying the same thing. Matt, what was your general take? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Kelly.
No, go ahead. I want to hear Matt.
Well, to be honest, I came into this whole thing late. I just checked into a hotel. So I caught a bit I caught David Grusch's speech and Tim Burchett and Eric Burlison. Was there much before that? I think I came in right when Eric Burlison started.
Well, it started out with James Fox. It was a quick little intro to the whole thing.
Okay.
And so did you say you caught Leslie or not?
I did. It was Burlison, I think, was and I did catch a bit of Leslie. I thought it was good. I wish it had been longer. So it was a little bit shorter than I was expecting, but I think it still was a very positive event that took place. And my hope, now I haven't seen anything yet because I've been here, but I'm hopeful that the mainstream media will pick this up and that it's not relegated to News Nation. Love News Nation, don't get me wrong, but we really need CNN, we need Fox, we need other people really talking about this. And but yeah, I agree with everything Dave has said. He and I have spoken about pretty much the same points that he touched on. So it's kind of not anything new to me, but I think a lot of it is very new to the public. And I agree that a large portion of this, or what is important outside of the fact that non-human intelligence is here and has been interacting with us for a very long time, is the government fraud, waste, and abuse. It's just not a tenable situation, not only for the stability of our democracy, but also in general. It's like, what are we? Where are our tax dollars going as U.S. citizens? And the fact that Congress has really been cut out of this loop for quite some time, and that that funding mechanisms have changed over time to keep all of this, to keep the fire hose of money going. And it's something that this just can't keep going on. I am hopeful that the Trump administration will act on this in a meaningful way. I think that so far their reaction has been to just give us some data and say, here, you go figure it out. Well, that's not our job. We are paying for the government to do its job, and to have Arrow be the sort of I don't know if gatekeeper is the correct word for it, as I'm not sure exactly what the relationship, but I think that is concerning. Trump, half of this stuff sits as transclassified foreign nuclear information in DOE. Trump can't do anything about that other than request that it be declassified, and then the panel would vote whether or not to do it. But the stuff that is sat in there in the National Security Council under the executive office of the president, he does have that the authority to unilaterally declassify that. And as much as I would have loved to have seen previous presidents done this, I have to give credit to Trump for having taken us this far. Now he just needs to take it all the way. I think that timing is very important. I'm very concerned, or not concerned, that's the wrong word. I'm not concerned. But I do think that the Republicans will probably lose in the midterms. And so I think that the urgency for Trump to do this is even more, there's more time pressure on it. So I firmly think he's got to be the guy to do it. I'm not a Trump guy, but in terms of this topic, I really think that this needs to happen with this administration. Otherwise, I'm fearful if the White House changes parties, that this will get kicked down the road for quite some time.
Right. I hope not. And you can possibly see the pressure he might be under. This is not my words. I've talked with Whitley Strieber about this basically, and he said that's why aliens.gov did what it did. And it would be really great if he could take that down. I think that would be helpful because I don't think that's helping anything at all. It's kind of making mockery. So Kelly, you were going to.
Well, I just really appreciated what Leslie, along the lines of what you were saying, Martin, but Leslie made a really good point that I've heard brought up before, but haven't heard discussed as much as I would expect. And this is, the reason is always, military secrecy. We need to protect military technology. And that's if the focus is on advanced technology. But if the focus is on advanced biologics, it's a completely different story. It cannot hide behind those same reasonings for keeping things classified and keeping things secret. And I think that is a thread that I hope more people continue pulling on. And I think, Grusch is obviously very guarded with his words. So the fact that he did answer a question with such specificity, with those two bookends of different types of life that he believes we have discovered, the focus on the actual biologics versus the technology, I think, is a really important shift that might yield a lot of progress.
Right. Very good. Yes, I'm looking forward to see how this plays out. All the other things that I've been involved in, like when Krys and I were at the first hearing. Matt, I think you were there. Yes, you were there.
I think it was the second one.
You were at the
I think
second
so,
one.
Yeah.
I think that was the first time we met. But when those hearings happened, I thought it was like, wow, this is so historical. And Krys, like you mentioned, there was over 1,000 people waiting for 65 seats. And, with the line just went around the corner. I was there filming the line. I couldn't believe the line. And I talked to people that work in that building, and they said, we've never seen this before on any case at all. So, what I'm getting at is here, when that happened, I thought, wow, this is just going to blow the whole thing open. This is historic. We're going to be seeing this in mainstream media all the time. And then, all my friends that are not looking at this topic, they knew nothing about it. So it's kind of discouraging. And so I think this is what James' attempt to do this was, just to, get the mainstream media. That's what he told me on the phone the other day, that he was just trying to get the mainstream media involved. And I don't know if it's going to change anything. We're just going to have to sit on the sidelines and see what happens.
Yeah, I do. I do know that they hired a PR firm to do this, but I'm not sure if CNN was there. I would hope so. Certainly Fox News. But I think that's why it really needs to be someone like the president or some senior member of Congress that just flat out says in black and white, with no ambiguity, no mincing of words, that this is what the reality of the situation is. And until it is someone like the president, or I wrote a op-ed for Liberation Times yesterday, where I was advocating for Senator Chuck Schumer and Mike Rounds to deliver a speech at this thing, and I even wrote the speech for them. You need either people from Congress that are able to say this truthfully, in other words, that they have read the classified information, so there's no ambiguity in their mind. Really, somebody of significant authority that is currently in office needs to go up and say this publicly. Otherwise, I fear that we will constantly be sort of swimming upstream in terms of being able to get the media to pay attention. In my experience and my conversations with people that have dealt with this stuff professionally, the media is corrupt. Not all, but in terms of the mainstream media, and trying to get this out to a wider audience is always an issue. We've seen, for instance, the messaging that the Wall Street Journal has done, and the two reporters there, Aruna Viswanathan, her sister is the head legal counsel for Northrop Grumman, and who's the just blanked on his name. The other journalist worked for the International Republican League, which is a CIA cutout. And so Joel Schechtman. So Joel Schechtman worked for this CIA cutout. That was his last job. And, so that's when you see the Wall Street Journal purposefully putting out false information to influence how Congress acts. Those are the kinds of things that go on all the time. I can tell you in particular that a whistleblower was in discussions with the New York Times to have them. New York Times was going to publish this whistleblower's op-ed, and there were discussions going back and forth, and then all of a sudden, New York Times ghosted him. And
Wow.
and
How
you
long
would
ago?
recognize this whistleblower. So those
Matt,
are the
how
kinds
long
of
ago was
things that
Yeah.
to get this out into the general public, the people that don't follow this topic, that is the challenge. And I am hopeful. I had a very good conversation with Paulina Luna's communications director at the after party at Bill Maher. So what was said at this conference, some of that certainly comported with things that I was told in private.
Wow, that's really very interesting. Thank you for that. Before we're going to move on, but I just wanted to share this real quickly. I think I'm going to share it. It's not working. There it goes. I'm going to be at this event. I'm going to try to be right in the front row and streaming live if I can, if they'll let me do that. And that's coming up on June 25th, right in Washington, D.C. So this is the Disclosure Forum 2026. And I will be there. So we'll have Burchett is going to be there again, Christopher Mellon, who
That's
I
awesome.
interviewed all the way back in 2015, and Mike Rounds. So you talked about Schumer Rounds. Schumer's not going to be there, but Kirsten Gillibrand will be there. And Kirk McConnell, I've been communicating with him. So these are all the other people that will be there. And there's some amazing names here. And I saw Jordan Flowers was in the background right there today, but anyway,
Martin, can I just add? Can I add a couple of thoughts? Well, of course, Matt, I agree with you and all of that. And I was mentioning before you came on the show early on when we were at the hearings in 2023, CNN was filming, and I said, are you guys going to really cover this? Why don't you cover this topic? And the producer looked over at me and he said, we want to. But it was very telling. Like, they are suppressing them from telling the story.
I believe it.
And I agree that today we'll find out whether or not this was a success, depending on what other news outlets pick up the story and take it forward. But I do think there were like several key things that I was kind of looking for when I was watching and listening, is like, were there any new documents, any new witnesses, firsthand testimony, any new name programs, contractors, locations, and congressional action. And so I kind of looked at those things, and I'm looking at new documents. Obviously, Kelly, you pulled up that document for Martin to share. So that's
it's old.
It's old.
Out for a while.
Is old.
Yeah.
You're right. But it is new to many of us. And maybe I'm the only one, but it's new to me. And it seems like it was if it's new to Martin, come on. He's been doing this since 2011. So Grusch dropped that on purpose. There's a reason for that. I think that's very important. And then also, as far as, I don't know about new documents, but, James Fox mentioned Aldo Rebelo, the Ministry of Defense in Brazil, who's coming out with a statement today that the Brazilian case was true, it sounds like. So I don't know what kind of credibility that adds to the story, but it is another, official coming forward to add credibility to a story. New witnesses. I don't think that we had any new witnesses today, but there was a call to action that very specifically went out by Paulina Luna to bring forward new intelligence officials that are willing to share information about the programs that they know. And I understand their call to action, but to be fair, I'm not even sure I didn't feel the confidence that they're really going to protect them. They're just like, yeah, we're thinking about protecting them, So that was kind of weird for me. It's almost like they put the cart before the horse. They should have secured that, protection before they did this big call to action.
I think it's probably indicative that they're not going to be able to secure it. I mean, I think unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So about probably about 4 weeks ago, I was in Colorado interviewing some whistleblowers for a period of about 4 days. and I can tell you, so one person that I spent some time with over an extended lunch was literally, do I get bumped out here?
No,
No, you're
I
live.
just
Oh, there we go.
You're just
Okay, I
saying.
lost everybody. Was almost shaking in their seat. They were so upset about the retaliation that not only that person received, but that person's spouse, who who had experienced this sort of administrative terrorism, and of course the purpose of this kind of harassment of whistleblowers is to discourage other whistleblowers, and in some of these folks that I've spoken with are some that are public and some that are not, are on the verge of bankruptcy because of the financial hit. If the golden ticket, if you want to call it that, for post-government employment is your clearance. These clearances cost a lot of money, and so when your clearance is flagged as a possible security issue, you can't get a job. And then let's say that your spouse also works in government in various areas in the intelligence community, and they have a clearance. But as part of the retaliation, the spouses are their clearance is targeted as well. And so all of a sudden you have a husband and wife that can't make a living, and put it this way, a lot of the things that I was told and that are not public in terms of what kind of the sort of specifics of the retaliation that were not administrative terrorism, quite frankly, I wish I hadn't been told about, because it was so shocking and made me so sad for this country that this kind of thing is not the exception, it's the rule.
Yeah.
And and a government that goes and purposely tries to destroy the lives and even purposely tries to destroy the marriages, and I'm gonna put a foot stomp on that, goes and tries to destroy the marriages of whistleblowers through some very specific and disturbing ways. This is just, it's got to come to an end. And the people that, in my view, that have been responsible for it, and I know the names of who the people that are behind this, those people need to be in federal prison. I mean, just flat out.
So Matt, I have a question for you.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and there's no, the things that I'm aware of that have happened to people. These are people that should not have any kind of amnesty. They need to be in federal prison, likely for the rest of their lives.
And Matt, is there a reason you can't call those specific individuals out?
Oop, did I lose everyone?
No.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah. So so the issue is that, I mean, sure, maybe there's legal protection so that they are not making what's called an unauthorized disclosure that kicks off a security violation. So, maybe there is, Congress has done a good job to a certain extent on allowing whistleblowers to come in and make what's called a protected disclosure. But the issue is that the legacy program and the IC and the DOD have found other workarounds. And when the IC goes and employs a defense contractor and gives them the tasking of physical retaliation against whistleblowers, and then that aerospace company uses their security contractor to be the people that do the bloody work, those people belong in jail. Just period.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So anyway, enough of that.
Yeah. So Eric Mitchell's in the room. I saw you interviewed him the other day. So I have to tell you something. So it's a playbook. It's a playbook, Matt, because I can just tell you, going all the way back to 2007, and John Kiriakou, who I got to know, CIA, he was a whistleblower on torture, the waterboarding. And they totally did everything you're saying to him at that time. So just his marriage was destroyed. He spent 30 months in prison. He actually thinks it was a gift, though, the whole thing altogether. And someday we'll see a screenplay. We'll see a movie about his whole situation. But all you have to do, it's kind of an unusual name, but John Kiriakou, the last, it's kind of hard for me to even spell off the cuff, but check it out, CIA, and see what he went through. And you'll see the playbook exactly like you're talking about. Go ahead, Krys.
Oh, I just wanted to add, I mean, it's really kind of one of those phenomenon synchronicities that I got involved in this topic the way I did, because like many people who end up having initiations or encounters, you're going through this very stressful point in your life. And while I can't say too much, because for many of this, I mean, it was a private company, but I essentially, would say that, there are people like me that might be whistleblowers to their corporation of things that are unethical. And after being 33 years in a career and having to face very subtle, nothing dangerous or damaging, like are people in the UAP topic, but very subtle retaliation, it destroyed me. It broke me. I'm just going to say that it broke me. And this was the actual time in the collapse when the UAP thing started. And I think, honestly, that has put such a burden of a huge burden on me for these whistleblowers, because I always felt like a sellout. I feel like a sellout because I kind of just walked away from the situation. I couldn't fight back. I couldn't afford to. I didn't have resources. And I just look at these people in a whole different level of respect for what they're coming, because this is a very dangerous topic to be exposing. I just want to say that I just relate to it, and it's a passion of mine. I do support the whistleblowers. Like I said, Jeff has been an active part of that movement and has connected us with, well, not just Jeff, everybody has been involved in this topic with Dylan Orland and Matthew, who still hasn't got a chance to testify. And yeah, they've done some horrific things to these people, and we have to support them. So then I want to talk about nuance. So where do we get into nuance? Because now I look at it from a perspective of, I used to be a very black and white thinker. I think I am in business. I'm very black and white, very ethical. But then at some point I realized, somebody who's speaking up against the system has to make a decision that feels unethical to them, even if it may not be. It's something for the better good of humanity. What's the nuance that we address as far as like immunity that came up in the discussion today and the hearing? It sounds like, in order for these people to come forward, they're going to want immunity, which is understandable. But then there's the other side, like the people who are doing damage to people's lives, or maybe they've participated in these things or activities or studies or research or whatever it is, and they've caused damage. Now, should they not be held accountable? It's a nuance. It is a nuance. And I personally, as a human, used to think I knew everything about integrity and ethics and all that. And now I really, it's a struggle for me to, as a human, understand that these people's lives are at stake, their families, their marriage, their income, everything, Matt. I totally understand that. Totally, completely relate. How do we support them and at the same time find people who are doing it for the right reasons and those who maybe still need to be held accountable for activities that they participate in willingly, maybe for gain of their own self or their own ideals? I'll leave it there.
Very good. Very good. Just to say, Kelly had to pick up the kids in 15 minutes. So she says goodbye to everyone. It was really great having her on.
Yeah.
But, so I know we're going on here. We're a couple hours in here, but I think we should just do like my last take, and we should just go around on that, if that's all right with you all. I like what David Grusch said, that, disclosure shouldn't rely and depend on leaks or people like himself. and that's
Yes.
true. It shouldn't.
That's true.
Shouldn't,
That's true.
because I've said this many times on my show, and Matt, I think when I was on your show, I might have said it too, that I think the government knows a heck of a lot more than we do, but I really, really do not believe that they know the full picture. And because of that, it may be really, really hard getting, what we can out of them. So I guess I'll say, Matt, you have any last thoughts on the whole situation here?
Yeah, I mean, again, I thought today was a positive development. I do think that that until there is some kind of release from these people's NDAs or some kind of significant protection for these whistleblowers, I worry that we are at a bit at the end of the line in terms of that. So so I think that really needs to happen for other people to come forward. And again, this is really up to the Trump administration. Politically, it makes complete sense for him, in my view. It would, for a whole host of reasons, timing wise, he would certainly go down in history for this, and I don't think any other media event would ever top that. So I think that he's and the other thing too is that doing this, there's no better way for him to prove what he's been saying about the deep state than this. This is the deep state. And and the CIA in many ways is the heart of it. So and that's again why I come back that he's really got to be the guy to do this, and for a whole host of reasons. And then two more points again: the fraud, waste, and abuse. It is a literal revolving door of people that exit government and either go into the UAP legacy program, which is literally run like a crime family, a mafia. And that it has to come to a stop. And then once again, just ending on the whistleblowers, people like Dave. I was introduced to Dave about right around a year before he went public. So and he and I speaker communicate pretty much daily. And I'm well aware of the things that were done to him and done to others, and the burden that people like Dave and others endure when trying to kind of right this wrong. And it is a true human cost, and it is a human cost not only on them, but on their families and their spouses. A tremendous amount of pressure. And when you have someone breaking into your home, pulling clothes out of your dresser, opening your attic up so that they are messaging that they've been up in your attic, and putting tracking devices on your spouse's car, that it's obscene. It is absolutely obscene what the U.S. government is doing to these people. And they're using these aerospace companies, and then the aerospace companies' security contractors to perform these things to try and give 2 degrees of separation between the CIA and the people that are actually doing these illegal activities. It's got to come to a stop, and I would hope that the administration would hold these people to account.
So Matt, I know we're trying to wrap up, but my question is, where do we decide, okay, the people that are contracting to do these illegal hits and damage, what if one of them wants to come forward, but they want immunity? I mean, I guess that happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
But blanket immunity, that's kind of, maybe blanket immunity for people who are willing to come forward on their own. I don't know. It just seems really sketchy.
Oh
and
no,
it is.
It's a difficult thing. Kind of, in my in my personal opinion, I think that when it gets into the line, when it gets into the when you have people in that are performing a dual hat function in a aerospace company where they are directing a subcontractor to retaliate. To me, that's the level where the immunity stops. Now, if somebody wants to come forward that has done those things, that could expose the whole thing and lead to a bunch of prosecutions. You know, as you mentioned, that kind of stuff happens all the time in law. So I do think that, you know, there should be cases at that. But as far as like a blanket thing, I'm
not okay with that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Yeah.
Me too.
Okay. Before we move on from this, I'm going to post this question because I think it's a good one and one that we should talk about because a lot of people say the same thing. Real whistleblowers, this is by JP Six Gunner. Thank you. Real whistleblowers have something these people do not. Evidence. So there's a lot of talk about that often, that we don't have the receipts. And but I don't know how that can be, because when it comes down to supposed real evidence, it's classified. You know, like when David Grusch came forward, he said, well, I can only talk about this in a skiff. You know, I've been shown this, I've been shown that. But I don't know, can we expect this to happen? I mean, you talk about immunity. Do you think these things can be declassified enough where someone can actually talk about the evidence?
Well, I think that's what's got to happen. You know, part of the issue is you know, so you have these subcompartments, you know, for TSSCI stuff, and if a member of Congress is not an approved recipient for that information, they can't hear it. And that when it, you know, gets into that area of the security classification guide on these SAPs, this is where you need the administration to to release these guys from their NDAs so they can make a authorized disclosure in a classified setting. But the stuff in terms of what the public is going to hear, it's the administration just would have to declassify it. You're not going to hear this from any whistleblower. They are not going to disclose classified information because every whistleblower that I've ever had this conversation with, they don't want to hurt national security. They honor their oath, and until they're released from that, they're not going to be able to speak to members of Congress about certain compartments, and they're certainly not going to be able to talk to the public about it.
Right. All right, Krys, any last words, and then we're going to wrap it up.
No, I think really I guess the one last thing I will end with is somebody made a comment on the side, and you know, obviously I'm 100% for disclosure. I've been there. I got on News Nation the day of the hearings on 2023, and I looked at our leaders in the eye, and I said, we demand disclosure, and we will hold you accountable. And honestly, I'm grateful because I think Burchett has, you know, stood the line since that day. You and I interviewed him, or you interviewed him, Martin, and I filmed in that morning. And
oh yeah, that's right.
You know, yeah, and I think yours didn't record and mine did, so I sent you the video. But we, you know, he's been there since day one. Paulina Luna has showed up, Burlison, Moskowitz, and I just say that because this is all important, but also I think it's very important when we talk about evidence, Matt, and what is evidence? You know, I'm not really wrapping up, but I'm going to make a point. We talk that we don't have evidence, we don't have receipts, and like we really need to define those things because we do have lots of evidence. And there's more things like, you know, maybe they can't come out with very specific, like David Grusch can't say something, but he let us on, you know, he's dropping Easter eggs. He's giving us evidence. Australia, you know, got information. That's more evidence. He also mentioned, you know, like I said, the other gentleman, Aldo Robello, coming forward. They mentioned the MIT and the MITRE companies and the documents they're sequestering from them. So there are efforts outside, you know, that will, I believe, provide evidence. Now, how people interpret that and everything is different. The other thing is, I just don't want to forget to remind people that outside of, you know, in social or you know, the social studies, we take experiential data into consideration. And I think that's something we really need to continue to focus on is the experiencers, their stories. And I won't just say, look at my story. I don't think anyone should just take somebody, but what evidence do they have? I mean, I have so much evidence. And frankly, no one's really interested. Why is that? Why is that? That is
Good
my
point.
question. I have put it out there. I've gone to people that analyze data. I have hundreds of thousands of videos, same time, same day, repeat. You can look, you can do whatever you want to them for public disclosure. I'm okay with that. Why is no one interested? They don't want to find something. Why? And I'm just saying that there's other people like me, lots of other people like me, not just me. But there is evidence, there is data. Let's start collecting it and analyze it from experiencers and put it out there. You know, I think that's important.
Good point. Well, great. So let me just share this here. I don't know why it's here. It goes. So tonight, just for those who, thank you all for being here. I see that we still have a pretty good sized audience in YouTube here. So just to let everyone know, I have for a while, I'm going to be having a couple shows a week. This one coming up tonight is Preston Dennett.
Wow.
He's coming on. And then Thursday, I have a great recording I did at Contact in the Desert. I believe I was the only one that really got to interview these two here. And so that is Dennis Asberg. And I always have a hard time saying her last name. Beatrice.
Is it Villarroel?
Villarroel, yeah.
Villarroel, maybe?
Yeah.
I always mispronounce it as well.
The only reason
Yeah.
I said that, I always thought it was Rael. My last name, my mom's maiden name is Rael, Rael. So it's just a little bit familiar.
It's close enough. But I want to thank you all for being here. And thank you, Matt. And thank you. Whoop. There's
I'm here. I'm
Chris.
just
She's back. All right.
I was looking for Preston's book on my shelf.
I thank you so much for your time today and your
Thank
input.
you guys for having me.
It was
I
really good.
appreciate it. Matt, it was good talking to you online. I know
Likewise.
we've met at a couple of events. So,
Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you
And
guys.
great job. And great
Oh,
job,
thank
Martin,
you.
covering this.
All
Thank you,
right.
guys.
Excellent. All right.
Martin,
All right, everyone.
thank you so much. You're awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Now.
Bye-bye.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye, everyone.